The space colony of Zarnok was a place of calm and order. For as long as anyone could remember, the aliens who lived there had believed that they understood the galaxy. They had studied the stars, mapped the neighboring systems, and learned the behaviors of almost every known species. To them, life outside their colony followed predictable patterns. Visitors would arrive, they would speak politely, and then they would either trade, ask for shelter, or leave quietly. Zarnok's leaders took pride in their control. They had walls of metal and shields of energy, and their machines could detect threats from light years away. To the aliens, nothing unexpected could disturb their order. But that morning, something appeared on the edge of the Zarnok sector that the aliens had never seen before. A fleet of strange ships glinted in the cold light of distant suns. Their shapes were unlike any spacecraft cataloged in the alien records. Smooth, angular, and moving in ways that defied the usual physics of the region, the ships drew closer, and the colony's sensors went into overdrive. The alarms were soft at first, barely audible, but the council quickly noticed them and understood that this was not a routine visit. The Council of Zarnok convened in a chamber high above the city. The leaders, tall and slender with skin that shimmered in shades of blue and green, hovered around a glowing table that projected images of the approaching fleet. They murmured to one another, exchanging theories, but none of their ideas made complete sense. "We've never seen ships like these," one leader said, his voice sharp with concern. "Could it be a new alliance? Or a rogue fleet from another system?" Another shook his head. "No fleet moves this way unless it has a purpose. And the energy readings? They are unlike anything we have cataloged. They are strong, but not like any weapon we know." As the minutes passed, the ships drew closer. The colony's sensors picked up movement on the surface of the ships, but the images were unclear. Shadows moved with intent, and shapes that were vaguely humanoid could be seen through the reinforced observation panels. The aliens grew nervous. Visitors were expected to be careful, courteous, and predictable. They were not expecting beings who radiated confidence and power even from inside their vessels. The Zarnok Council quickly sent a message of peace following protocol, a welcoming signal, calm words, and an offer of resources for trade. They waited, imagining that a polite response would come, but the response did not come as expected. The ships landed one after another with a precision that surprised even the most experienced pilots of Zarnok. The landing zones were cleared quickly, but the beings who disembarked were entirely unexpected. Humans. The aliens had studied human reports from distant explorers, but they had assumed the species was weak, fragile, and not suited for space travel beyond the basics. Yet here they were, standing firmly on the ground in exosuits that looked battered, dirty, and oddly primitive compared to the aliens' sleek forms. The humans moved with confidence, scanning their surroundings with sharp, alert eyes. They did not bow, wave, or speak in the calm tones the Zarnok expected. Instead, they walked with purpose as if the land itself belonged to them. The first humans to step off the ships carried no obvious weapons, but the aliens sensed something in their presence that made their sensors hum with tension. These beings had survived harsh environments, planets where the weather could kill within minutes, creatures that could hunt anything smaller than a mountain, and terrains that would crush ordinary life. Their eyes were trained to see danger in shadows, to read intentions in gestures, to predict movements instinctively. The council felt a growing unease. They realized that they had misjudged the humans. This species, which they had assumed would need help or guidance, was here to act on its own terms. On the surface, the humans explored cautiously but quickly. They touched the soil, inspected the alien architecture, and tested the strength of barriers with simple gestures that unnerved the observers. They were methodical, but not slow. They spoke to each other in short, direct phrases, their voices carrying authority and confidence. To the Zarnok, it was as if they were witnessing a new form of life, one that did not follow the rules of civility or tradition, but instead relied on raw skill, intelligence, and instincts honed by survival. In the hours that followed, small incidents began to occur. A Zarnok drone attempting to scan one of the humans was quickly disabled with minimal effort. The humans had learned to move in ways that exploited weaknesses in the alien technology. They were not reckless. Every step, every motion was calculated. Even the aliens, who were masters of observation, struggled to understand how the humans seemed to predict events before they happened. A sense of awe mixed with fear spread through the colony. The council realized that they were no longer in control. By the end of the day, the humans had established a small perimeter and observed the colony without asking permission. The aliens tried to communicate again, but this time, the humans' silence was intimidating. It was clear that they were not waiting for permission. They were waiting to see what the Zarnok would do next. The council's members felt a new emotion: uncertainty. For the first time, they could not predict what would happen. They had studied the galaxy, mastered diplomacy, and built defenses, but none of it seemed enough. Night fell on Zarnok, and the stars above reflected in the aliens' metallic city. The humans stood quietly in the landing zone, their eyes scanning the horizon. They did not celebrate, they did not boast. They simply prepared, as if the day had only just begun. The aliens watched from their towers, unsure if the humans were friends, enemies, or something entirely different. Whispers spread among the citizens of the colony. Stories of humans who could survive anywhere, fight anything, and outsmart even the most advanced machines. These whispers grew into warnings. Zarnok had thought the galaxy was predictable, but the humans had arrived and changed everything. By the next morning, the council understood one undeniable truth. The humans were not here to follow rules. They were not here to negotiate on conventional terms. They were here to act, to challenge, and to show that life hardened by extreme conditions could never be controlled by arrogance or technology alone. The colony, once secure and confident, now faced beings it could not fully understand. And as the first rays of the twin suns fell on the landing zone, the humans stood ready, calm and prepared, while the aliens could only watch and wait, unsure if they were witnessing the beginning of friendship or the start of a reckoning unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The morning after the humans arrived, the Zarnok colony buzzed with tension. The alien leaders were in constant communication, their voices sharp and hurried as they debated what to do next. Every member of the council was aware of the humans' unusual presence. No one had ever faced visitors who ignored their formal signals, who walked confidently across the colony without waiting for permission, and who carried an air of unshakable determination. The aliens were skilled at reading intentions, but the humans were unpredictable. It felt as if the Zarnok had never truly understood the species in front of them. The council decided to send a delegation to meet the humans directly. They chose the most experienced diplomats, experts in language, etiquette, and strategy. These delegates were tall, elegant beings with long arms and eyes that shimmered in multiple colors. They approached the humans with caution, their movements precise and measured, hoping to project calm authority. The humans, however, did not bow or gesture in the customary alien way. They simply observed, their gaze steady and assessing. Every small motion seemed calculated yet entirely natural. The first words of communication were awkward. The aliens spoke slowly, carefully choosing terms that had been proven safe in all previous encounters with other species. "We welcome you to Zarnok," the lead diplomat said, his voice smooth and controlled. "We hope your journey was peaceful. Please, accept our resources and assistance." The humans responded, not with words but with a series of small gestures, pointing, scanning, and finally a subtle nod. It was not rudeness, the aliens realized, but something else. A way of showing that the humans did not rely on traditional greetings or formalities. They were not here to negotiate in the usual sense. As the day progressed, minor incidents began to test the colony's patience. A Zarnok drone moved too close to one of the humans to record data. In an instant, the human sidestepped and disabled the drone with a small, precise tool. The council gasped. The humans were not reckless, but their understanding of technology and strategy was immediate and effective. Even the drones, which had been the pride of the colony, were no match for beings who had survived conditions harsher than anything Zarnok had ever known. Word spread through the colony quickly. Citizens whispered in the streets and corridors about the humans' strength, their ability to adapt, and their calm confidence. Rumors grew like wildfire that these humans could survive on planets where nothing else could live, that they had fought creatures so large and dangerous that even the most skilled Zarnok warriors would hesitate to approach. The aliens, who had always believed themselves to be the most intelligent and capable species in their sector, began to feel a creeping uncertainty. The humans were not just visitors. They were a challenge to everything they thought they knew. By midday, the Zarnok Council decided to escalate their efforts. They deployed a series of observation drones, each equipped with sensors designed to detect the humans' intentions. The drones hovered silently, recording movements and analyzing patterns. But the humans anticipated each move. They did not panic, they did not run, and they did not try to destroy the machines outright. Instead, they adapted. A single gesture here, a subtle adjustment there, and the drones lost balance, misread the terrain, or shut down entirely. The aliens were stunned. No species had ever adapted so quickly and so efficiently to their technology. The humans then began exploring the colony itself. They walked through streets and plazas with a careful curiosity, touching walls, observing devices, and noting patterns. The aliens watched from a distance, trying to understand their strategy, but it was impossible. Every human moved with purpose, but that purpose was hidden. Like a puzzle the aliens could not solve. The humans were not aggressive, but they were not passive either. It was clear that they could respond to danger instantly, and that the consequences for any mistake could be severe. Small groups of aliens attempted to speak with the humans, asking questions and offering explanations about Zarnok society, history, and culture. The humans listened, occasionally pointing, sometimes stepping back to assess and then moving on. It was not disrespect, the aliens realized, but a method of understanding the world on their own terms. They were not here to follow the rules set by the Zarnok. They were here to learn, observe, and act when necessary. As evening approached, a minor conflict erupted. A patrol of Zarnok guards, unsure of how to control the situation, moved too close to a human group. The humans reacted instantly, demonstrating their skills in ways that shocked the colony. They were fast, precise, and decisive. Not a single human was harmed, but the guards were incapacitated without injury, knocked down, restrained, and rendered unable to act. The council realized with growing fear that their standard measures of control were useless. The humans did not respond like ordinary species. They responded like predators who had learned to survive by thinking ahead, by reading movements, and by acting before threats fully formed. The citizens of Zarnok watched from their homes and towers. They had never seen anything like this. Balibash. Humans moved among them with calm confidence, their presence commanding attention. Children whispered in wonder, adults murmured in fear and amazement, and even the most senior council members admitted quietly that they did not fully understand these beings. The humans did not boast or threaten, yet their mere presence changed the atmosphere of the colony. It was as if the ground itself recognized that something new, something extraordinary had arrived. By the time the twin suns began to set, the humans had completed their initial exploration. They had learned the layout of the city, the position of key resources, and the behavior patterns of the colony's defenders. The aliens, who had always prided themselves on preparation and strategy, felt vulnerable for the first time. The humans had shown that survival, instinct, and adaptability could rival technology in numbers. The Zarnok began to understand a truth they had long ignored. Strength was not only in machines or formal training, it was in the ability to endure, to act, and to think in conditions where others failed. Night fell, and the humans established a small perimeter near the landing zone. They did not sleep like the aliens in regulated cycles or enclosed chambers. Instead, they rested lightly, alert and ready, eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of danger. The aliens watched from above, unsure of what would happen next. Would the humans stay peacefully, or would they act in ways the Zarnok could not predict? The council realized that their old assumptions no longer applied. The humans were here, and nothing about their presence fit into the patterns the aliens had studied for generations. In that moment, the Zarnok colony understood that life on this planet, and perhaps in the galaxy, would never be the same. The humans were not ordinary visitors. They were not fragile or predictable. They were Deathworlders, beings forged in hardship and danger, and their arrival had begun to rewrite the rules of the galaxy. The aliens would have to adapt, or face the consequences of underestimating a species that thrived where others could not survive. The next morning, the Zarnok Council gathered in the largest chamber of the colony. The tension in the air was thick, heavier than the usual hum of energy that ran through the city. The humans had spent the night near the landing zone, seemingly calm and alert. To the council, that calm was unnerving. It was clear that these were not ordinary beings who could be intimidated by speeches, threats, or displays of power. The humans moved with a focus and determination that no alien had ever encountered. For the first time in generations, the Zarnok leaders realized that they were not fully in control of the situation. Determined to regain some sense of authority, the council decided to deploy their most advanced defense systems. The colony's drones, robots, and automated weapons were designed for efficiency and precision. In theory, they could overwhelm any threat with superior numbers and technology. The Zarnok had relied on these systems for decades, trusting them to maintain order and security. Now they hoped that the machines would impress the humans, or at least give the aliens an upper hand. The drones activated and moved in formation, their sensors glowing brightly as they scanned the area for any unusual activity. The humans observed, quietly. They did not panic, nor did they attempt to attack immediately. Instead, they moved with careful precision, reading the patterns of the drones as if they were pieces on a chessboard. A single human crouched behind a small wall and studied the approach of a drone squad. Another adjusted the terrain slightly, shifting objects in ways that forced the machines to hesitate or miscalculate. It was subtle, but effective. Within minutes, several drones were out of alignment, sensors confused, and others had been temporarily disabled. The Zarnok watched in shock. Their most advanced machines, designed to react faster than any living being, were being outmaneuvered. The humans' strategy became clear. They did not rely on brute force or overwhelming firepower. Instead, they observed, adapted, and acted with precision. Every movement had a purpose. Every response was calculated, and every action exploited weaknesses that the aliens had never considered. The Zarnok Council realized that their confidence in technology alone had been misplaced. These humans had survived planets where machines often failed, where danger lurked in every shadow, and where adaptability was the key to life itself. As the confrontation continued, the humans began exploring more of the colony. They moved through streets, plazas, and narrow alleys with the same calm assurance. The Zarnok tried to predict their path, using sensors, drones, and patrols. Yet the humans always seemed one step ahead. When a drone attempted to block a route, the humans simply altered the environment, moving debris, using the terrain, or creating small obstacles that caused the machines to falter. The aliens realized that these were not ordinary tactics. The humans were thinking not like visitors, but like survivalists who understood how to turn every situation to their advantage. By midday, a small group of humans had reached the central hub of the colony. They moved quickly, examining the structures, the energy systems, and the ways the Zarnok communicated internally. The aliens sent guards to intercept them, believing that their superior numbers would be enough to assert control. But the humans were faster, smarter, and more adaptive than anyone had anticipated. They dodged, diverted, and incapacitated the guards without causing harm, leaving them restrained and unable to act. The Zarnok realized with growing fear that the humans' ability to respond to threats was unmatched. Throughout the day, the humans continued to demonstrate their skill. They were not reckless, nor were they aggressive for no reason. Each action was purposeful, designed to test the limits of the colony's systems and the aliens' reactions. The Zarnok began to see a pattern. These were beings who had survived Environments harsher than any city, harsher than any technology could manage, and harsher than any threat the aliens had ever faced. The humans were alive because they could adapt faster than danger could approach, and that adaptability made them nearly unstoppable. In the central plaza, a minor miscalculation by the aliens sparked a more significant confrontation. A small drone, attempting to capture data on the humans, approached too closely. One human reacted instantly, disabling the drone with a tool that seemed simple, but was incredibly effective. The drone was rendered useless in seconds, and the humans moved on without hesitation. The aliens were stunned. Their confidence in technology had been shattered, and they were beginning to understand that these visitors were not to be underestimated. The humans' presence began to affect the citizens as well. Aliens in the streets paused to watch, whispers spreading about beings who could think, act, and survive in ways no one had imagined. Children pointed from windows, adults murmured in fear and fascination, and even the most experienced soldiers felt a sense of vulnerability. The humans did not flaunt their strength, yet their calm, confident behavior commanded attention and respect. The Zarnok began to realize that power did not always lie in weapons or numbers. Sometimes it lay in knowledge, instinct, and the ability to respond under pressure. By evening, the humans had explored a large portion of the colony. They had observed the key systems, understood the layout, and anticipated the actions of the Zarnok defenders. The aliens tried to regroup, forming strategies based on what they thought were predictable human responses. But the humans remained unpredictable, reading situations and adapting in ways that no one could calculate. The Council understood that they were facing beings who had been shaped by environments far deadlier than Zarnok, beings whose skills, in observation, adaptation, and action were unmatched. Nightfall brought a brief lull, but it did little to ease the tension. The humans established a small perimeter near the colony's central hub, their eyes scanning the surroundings constantly. They rested lightly, always alert, never completely still. The Zarnok watched from their towers, realizing that the humans' abilities were more than physical. They had a mental sharpness, a capacity to anticipate threats, and a calm confidence that made every move they made seem effortless. It was as if they had trained for decades to handle situations where failure could mean death, and the aliens could sense that any misstep could be disastrous. As the twin suns dipped below the horizon, the Zarnok Council came to a hard truth. These humans were not ordinary visitors. Their technology might be simple compared to the colonies, but their adaptability, instincts, and understanding of survival made them a force that could not be predicted or controlled. The Council realized that the humans had turned the colony into a testing ground, not through violence but through observation and action. The Zarnok could no longer rely on their assumptions or their confidence in machines alone. The humans' presence had begun to change the colony itself. The citizens were more alert, the soldiers more cautious, and even the leaders more thoughtful in their decisions. The aliens were forced to confront a new reality. Survival and strength were not always measured by technology, numbers, or formal authority. Sometimes the most formidable beings were those who had learned to survive against impossible odds, who could adapt instantly, and who acted with precision and confidence. By the end of the day, the humans had proven one undeniable fact. They were a species shaped by challenge, danger, and survival. The aliens had expected visitors who could be controlled, reasoned with, or intimidated. Instead, they faced beings who could act independently, think ahead, and respond with skill that surpassed even the most advanced technology. The Zarnok Council realized that their world and their understanding of the galaxy had changed forever. By the following morning, the Zarnok colony was tense like never before. The humans had spent the night near the central hub, alert and unshaken, while the aliens tried to prepare for what they believed would happen next. The Council had hoped that simply showing technological strength and deploying defensive measures would impress or intimidate the humans. But the humans did not respond to intimidation. They did not act aggressively without cause, nor did they seem afraid. Their calm, confident presence alone unsettled the Zarnok. It became clear that these visitors were not ordinary explorers. They were warriors shaped by extreme environments, beings whose instincts and skills were unlike anything the aliens had encountered. The Zarnok decided to escalate. They would launch a preemptive strike to test the humans' strength and hopefully force them into a predictable response. Advanced drones and energy battalions moved silently into position, ready to block, trap, or attack the humans if necessary. The council watched anxiously, expecting that the humans, who seemed so small compared to the colony's advanced technology, would be overwhelmed. But the humans had anticipated the move. They did not panic or retreat. They adjusted their positions calmly, watching and analyzing the incoming forces. Their strategy was subtle but deadly. Every step they took exploited weaknesses in the aliens' plans. As the first drones approached, the humans acted. They did not charge forward recklessly, nor did they use heavy weapons. Instead, their movements were precise, calculated, and effective. With careful timing and observation, they disabled the drones one by one, using the environment to their advantage. A drone attempting to flank them suddenly malfunctioned after stepping on an uneven surface, carefully manipulated by a human. Another misread its targeting system after the humans shifted energy reflections from nearby walls. The aliens could hardly believe what they were seeing. Their most advanced technology was failing not because of superior force, but because the humans understood how to use the surroundings, the machine's patterns, and their own instincts to turn the tide. Soon, it became clear that the humans were not only defending themselves, they were actively controlling the battle without firing a single energy weapon. The Zarnok forces tried again, this time coordinating multiple battalions and targeting squads to surround the humans. But every attempt failed. The humans moved like shadows, always one step ahead, exploiting mistakes the aliens did not even realize they were making. Their actions were fast, precise, and controlled, and their presence alone caused hesitation among the alien soldiers. Fear, respect, and awe mixed in equal measure, spreading quickly through the ranks. The humans' fury was not uncontrolled rage. It was focused, deliberate, and impossible to predict. They acted like a single unit, yet each individual could respond independently to any situation. Guards who had thought they were safe found themselves restrained or outmaneuvered without injury. Drones that were supposed to scan and attack suddenly became obstacles for the aliens themselves. Even the strongest energy barriers could not stop the humans' movement. The colony had assumed that brute force and technology were the ultimate measures of power. The humans were proving that adaptability, awareness, and experience in survival could surpass any weapon or machine. As the battle unfolded, the Zarnok Council realized the scale of their miscalculation. They had underestimated the humans, believing them fragile, untrained, and predictable. But these humans had survived worlds far harsher than Zarnok, faced predators far more dangerous than any the aliens had catalogued, and adapted to conditions that would have crushed ordinary beings. Their training, instincts, and intelligence allowed them to fight in ways the aliens had never considered. Every failed attack, every miscalculated move by the Zarnok made the humans' skills shine even brighter. By midday, the humans had gained the upper hand without causing unnecessary harm. Entire sections of the colony were now under their observational control, and the aliens struggled to keep pace. Panic began to spread among the lower-ranked soldiers. They had believed in the superiority of their technology, their numbers, and their strategy. But the humans were proving that none of it mattered if one opponent could read, anticipate, and adapt faster. The Zarnok began to understand the true meaning of Deathworlders, beings forged in danger, capable of overwhelming even the most advanced civilizations with nothing more than intelligence, precision, and instinct. The humans moved steadily, calmly, and deliberately. They created zones of influence without firing energy blasts or using excessive force. Every action was designed to teach a lesson without unnecessary destruction, yet the impact was profound. The Zarnok began to realize that these were not just visitors. They were a force that demanded respect. The humans' fury was like a storm controlled by a master, focused, precise, and impossible to resist. Every attempt by the aliens to regain control ended with more evidence of the humans' superior tactics. By evening, the humans had established control over key areas of the colony. They had shown the aliens that they could move anywhere, respond to any threat, and anticipate any plan. The Zarnak Council, sitting in their chamber, faced a hard truth. The humans were not going to be intimidated, negotiated with in conventional ways, or defeated through standard tactics. Their fury was not random or chaotic. It was controlled, purposeful, and unstoppable. The colony had underestimated a species shaped by survival, and now they were witnessing the consequences. As night fell, the humans did not rest in the same way as the Zarnak. They remained alert, scanning the surroundings, adjusting positions, and preparing for any possible threat. The aliens watched from their towers, realizing that they had never truly faced beings like this before. The humans' presence had transformed the colony, not through destruction but through demonstration. Their skill, focus, and controlled fury had rewritten the rules of engagement, forcing the Zarnak to reconsider everything they thought they knew about power, strength, and survival. By the end of the day, the humans had proven an undeniable fact. They were forces of nature shaped by extreme conditions, capable of overpowering even the most technologically advanced civilizations with skill, precision, and intelligence. The Zarnak Council understood that their arrogance had led them to underestimate these visitors. They had assumed they could predict the humans' actions, but the humans had acted in ways that were entirely their own. The colony, once confident and secure, now faced a species whose fury and skill were unmatched, a species that could not be controlled, predicted, or defeated through conventional means. By the following day, the Zarnak colony had entered a state of cautious respect for the humans. The visitors had shown that their presence was not to be taken lightly. Even without conventional weapons, they had demonstrated an ability to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast any alien defense the Council could devise. The aliens had learned a hard lesson. Strength was not always in technology, numbers, or authority. True strength could lie in observation, adaptability, and the skill to survive where others could not. The humans continued their careful exploration of the colony. They moved methodically, observing systems, learning the patterns of guards, and understanding the layout of the city. Yet their actions were never destructive. They did not tear down buildings or harm civilians. Instead, they showed control and dominance through intelligence and presence. The aliens watched from their towers and streets, unsure if the humans were teaching them, testing them, or preparing for some unknown goal. One thing was clear: underestimating these beings would be a grave mistake. The Council attempted to negotiate, once more, sending messages and emissaries to the humans. They offered supplies, technological assistance, and invitations to discuss peace. The humans responded not with words, but with calm observation, indicating that they were listening, but not yet interested in discussion. The aliens realized that traditional diplomacy was not going to work. These visitors operated on their own terms, and any attempt to control or predict them would fail. The humans were not here to follow rules. They were here to show what skill, adaptation, and experience truly meant. Over the course of the day, small incidents continued to illustrate the humans' abilities. A malfunctioning drone was neutralized, without destruction. A patrol that tried to corner the humans found themselves restrained rather than injured. Every encounter emphasized the same lesson. These were beings hardened by conditions that Zarnak could not imagine, and their instincts, intelligence, and adaptability made them far more dangerous than appearances suggested. The Council began to accept that the humans' fury, when necessary, could overwhelm even the most prepared defenses. As evening approached, the humans moved strategically to the edges of the city. They observed, analyzed, and adjusted their positions. Their presence was felt without aggression, their dominance proven through precision and skill rather than violence. The citizens of Zarnak watched in awe and fear. Children whispered about these mysterious visitors. Soldiers shared stories of their unmatched abilities, and council members debated the implications of hosting beings who could outmaneuver their entire defense network. It was clear that the humans had changed the balance of power in the colony permanently. Night fell, and the humans remained vigilant. Their alertness, discipline, and awareness were unmatched. The Zarnak could not sleep easily. Their thoughts, occupied by the presence of beings who had survived worlds even harsher than their own. The humans' skills had forced a new respect, a realization that survival was about far more than technology. It was about intelligence, observation, and the ability to act decisively in moments of danger. The colony had been transformed not through destruction, but through the demonstration of superior skill and control. By the next morning, the Zarnok had learned the final lesson the humans had come to teach. Arrogance could be fatal, assumptions could be wrong, and even the most technologically advanced civilization could be humbled by beings who relied on instinct, skill, and experience. The humans, the Deathworlders, had shown that they could dominate situations without violence, that their fury was controlled and purposeful, and that their presence alone demanded respect. The aliens realized that the humans would leave a permanent mark on the galaxy. News of their arrival would spread to neighboring systems, and civilizations would take note of the species that had arrived at Zarnok and reshaped a colony with nothing more than their skill, intelligence, and determination. For the humans, it was simply another mission, another world to observe and influence without unnecessary conflict. For the Zarnok, it was a lesson they would never forget. Never underestimate those who have survived where others could not, and never assume that appearances reveal the full measure of strength. By the end of the day, the humans prepared to leave. Their task had been completed. They had explored, observed, and demonstrated the full extent of their abilities. The colony was intact, the citizens unharmed, but the Zarnok's understanding of power and survival had changed forever. The humans' controlled fury, unmatched skill, and intelligence had proven that true strength lies not in weapons or numbers, but in adaptability, awareness, and the courage to act decisively in the face of danger. As the ships lifted off, the humans looked back at the colony, calm and composed. The Zarnok watched in silence, still processing the events of the past days. Their world had survived, but it had been challenged and transformed. The humans, the Deathworlders of the galaxy, had arrived, unleashed their controlled fury, and departed, leaving a lasting lesson in their wake.